Hi everybody. Today's topic is lesson 8. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I remember when I started to do the workbook lessons, first of all, I didn't really understand anything. And second of all, I kind of doubted the need for them. I felt like, okay, maybe after lesson 50, it starts to get really interesting, or maybe 40 or 35 or something. But the first 10 or even the first 20, I thought, okay, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I didn't really think that much about it. The further I go with the course, the more I realize that those first 20 lessons are far ahead of anything else, I think, in the course. They connect things that previously have not been connected, and when reading them after you've gone through the text many, many times and we start to understand some of the concepts, those lessons are profound. They're absolutely profound, I think. So I have a couple of thoughts on lesson number 8. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. If you think about the second sentence number 2, no one really sees anything. Right? We're so sure of what we see. We look around and we look outside, we look at our hands and what the course suggests, right? And to realize that we don't really see anything is mind-boggling, right? We only see, as sentence 3 says, he only sees his thoughts projected outward. Anything we see on the outside is not really seeing. The course says it's image making. We have something within that usually comes from the ego. It's usually our belief in sin that is being denied, repressed, and then we project it out onto the world. So what we think is seeing is actually projecting out our belief in sin. There is a connection that we need to make, which is the connection between sin, guilt, and fear and time. The past, present, and future. Kenneth Wapnick always talks about that. The sin is our past, guilt is our present, and fear of the future is the cause for fear of the future. So when Jesus says, your mind cannot grasp the present. Your mind cannot grasp the present. Is because our mind is preoccupied with the sin we have committed in the past when we killed God. That engenders the fear of the future, which leaves the present moment blank. Right? There is none. For the ego never wants the present moment. The ego always wants from the past direct in the future. Even if we look outside right now and what we see is always the past. We only see the past. Lesson 7 says, I only see the past. And lesson 8 says, this idea, of course, is the reason why you see only the past, because your mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. So whatever we think about throughout the day, we can categorize it in either we're thinking about what happened, or we're thinking about a possible future. And when Jesus says your mind cannot grasp the present, which is the only time there is, it therefore cannot understand time and cannot in fact understand anything. So he says in sentence 2, no one really sees anything. Okay, and then he says in sentence 6, we cannot understand anything. Where does that leave us, right? Where are we when Jesus says we can't grasp the present, we don't understand anything, and we don't see anything when we look around? Where does that leave us? Our lives, studying this course, right? We study this course, we read the course, and then Jesus says, no one really sees anything. The one holy true thought one can hold about the past is that it is not here. The past is no longer here, but we still keep it with us because we don't want the present moment. The present moment is the biggest enemy of the ego thought system. The moment we're identified with our ego, the present moment, the now, is our biggest enemy. And any spiritual system that says or that suggests to concentrate on the now makes no sense, because we can't. We cannot concentrate on the now unless we uncover the purpose of why we always are preoccupied with the past and with the future. We have to uncover the purpose of our thoughts. Then he says, very few have realized what it actually entailed in picturing the past or in anticipating the future. That's basically our thinking. In 24 hours, our day, when we're awake, we either think about the past or we think about the future. The mind is, when we think about the past or anticipate the future, the mind is actually blank when it does this, because it is not really thinking about anything. So we don't see anything, we don't understand anything, and we don't actually think about anything. The purpose of the exercises for today is to begin to train your mind to recognize when it is not really thinking at all. Again, where does this leave us? Because we think about stuff all the time, right? And Jesus says in lesson 8, we don't think. And here's a crucial sentence. While thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind, the truth is blocked. Thoughtless ideas are ideas about the past and about a possible future. Those are thoughtless ideas, right? While thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind, the truth is blocked. If you think about the introduction to the text. The Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. And then he says here in lesson 8, while thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind, the truth is blocked. So thoughts, the thoughts we think, are a shield against love. And that's a concept that is no other spiritual system that I know of conveys that, right? That the thoughts we have are either about the past or about the future. They are there for a purpose. The purpose of our thoughts is to block the truth. So we can't find the now because we're preoccupied with thoughts of sin in the past that transfer into the future as fear. We're preoccupied with thinking about the past, thinking about the future, so that we block the love that is in the now. Love can't be in the future, it can't be in the past. The past is an illusion, the future is an illusion. The only time that is real is the present moment right now, and that's where love waits for us. And we don't experience it because we're blocking it out. We're blocking it out not only with stuff we do and stuff on the outside, like we're stressed or we have issues or problems or our body or anything in this world, right? That's one layer. But the other layer, the more immediate layer, is our thoughts. You know, our thoughts are a block to the truth, against the truth. Our thoughts stop us from experiencing love in the present. And without realizing that this is so, we can't change it, right? If we think our thoughts are just there and I don't have control over them, and they just come and go and I can't find quietness in my mind, we have to stop and realize we are the ones that put those thoughts there. Nobody puts those thoughts into our head. We are the ones that have those thoughts, and we have those thoughts for a purpose, and that purpose is to block out love completely. And love is equal with truth, with heaven, with eternity, with God, with life, with oneness, with Christ, all those non-dualistic terms up there. The truth is what we want to block out. So while thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind, the truth is blocked. Recognizing that your mind has been merely blank, rather than believing that it is filled with real ideas, is the first step to opening the way to vision. That's crazy. If you read it the first time, or if you start thinking about it, it's the recognition that all of our thoughts have absolutely no meaning. The only meaning our thoughts have are that their purpose is to shield us from love. That's why those exercises, the exercise says, I seem to be thinking about something. I seem to be thinking about then name each of your thoughts specifically. For example, I seem to be thinking about name a person, about an object, a name of an emotion. It's all for us to start the process of realizing that our thoughts, our good thoughts and our bad thoughts, because all of those thoughts have as their origin our belief that we destroyed heaven, right? The origin of all of our thoughts are that we took the separation seriously, that the ego says this, you are an individual, you have sinned. The guilt is so overwhelming that we project it outward onto God. We're now afraid of God, we make the world and we hide in a body. And we have all those thoughts because we believe that the moment we come back to the present moment without defenses, God will take back the life that we stole from him. That's why we can't find rest in our mind or in the world. It is purposive, right? We are preoccupied with thoughts for a purpose, and that purpose is for us not to go back to that point in our mind where we make the decision for God. Right? So that is why our thoughts won't give us rest, because we put them there. And we put them there so that the truth is blocked. And that's really all we need to do. If you think about how forgiveness works, right? We have spoken about that. The first step is to state what is. The second step is to take back our projections and realize that whatever we feel and think is what we want to feel or think, so that we appear innocent, or in the end, we don't want to go back to this choice point in our mind where we can make a decision for the Holy Spirit. We want to avoid that point. So that's why we are preoccupied with all of our thoughts and whatever we do in the world. So forgiveness works the same way. We look at our thoughts, just like we look at the driver that cuts us off and we get upset about it. The first step is to realize what is, and the realization what is to look at our thoughts and just sit back and look at them and see how they change. And we can't never concentrate on one thing. It always swears off into the distance, and then it connects with other thoughts, and then it comes back. So to watch them for a while and realize this, that's the second step. Realize that we put those thoughts there for a reason. And that reason is that we're afraid of love, of the love of God. We're afraid to go back to that choice point, because the ego has told us when we go back to that choice point and have no more defenses, God will come and take back the life that we stole from him. So here's an interesting connection though. When we apply, or when we look at our thoughts, they're very chaotic and they go from the past to the future with no room for the present moment. And we don't know how to get out of them, right? We take sleeping pills, or we drink a glass of wine, or we distract ourselves, but we don't know how to get rid of those thoughts. And the Course says, I'm paraphrasing, any chaotic thought is accompanied by guilt. So if you imagine those thoughts that go through our head, the engine for those thoughts is our guilt. The fuel for those thoughts that don't stop is guilt. It is not what happened yesterday. It is not what is going to happen tomorrow. It is guilt right now. We experience guilt for the believing the ego that said we sinned because we are an individual and the separation is real. So our thoughts that block the truth, the engine for that, the fuel for that is our guilt. And the only way to escape from guilt is forgiveness. So one way for our thoughts to lose their heaviness or their dark foreboding or their regrets from the past that we mull over and over and over again, and we have this future that is always in peril, right? One way of dealing with that is forgiveness, and not only just looking at our thoughts and realizing that we put them there for a purpose, but anybody that we have difficulties with shows us how much we still believe in sin and guilt, right? Any person that we want to avoid or we have difficulties with, that's what we work with. That's how we apply the principles of forgiveness. We look at the other person. We ask Jesus for help. We realize that whatever we see in the other person is what we don't want to see in ourselves, and we ask Jesus or the Holy Spirit for help to see this differently, and that helps with our thoughts that don't stop, because it's one and the same. That's why Jesus says, the inside and the outside, your thoughts and what you see are exactly the same. So it doesn't matter if we apply forgiveness in the outside world, in the people that we see, that we meet, that we don't like, or that we want to avoid, or that we hate, or that we have difficulty with, or we look at our thoughts inside. Those are the same, because the outside is just a projection of the inside. So forgiveness lifts the veil, and forgiveness is the one thing that, if we do it in one area, it affects all the areas. And it says a miracle can affect people or circumstances you don't even know. So does forgiveness. And forgiveness is the only thing that calms our thoughts, because without sin, without the belief in sin, the past no longer exists, because the past is the sin that we committed. And without the sin, the guilt is no longer there, and the future, the fear of the future is no longer there. And then our mind is blank. And then the love of God can return. All right, I think that's it for today. Thanks for listening.